Okay, so we pull up the image in Photoshop. Now we have our layers palette open. We always want that open, and by default it usually is anyway. So the first thing we want to do is duplicate our layer. There's two ways to do it. We can just right-click in the layer itself and go to Duplicate Layer. It brings up a little window, and now we can rename it. So I'm going to rename this Spot Healing Brush. Okay? So now you'll see that that layer is called that. So when I go now to go in and actually do the Spot Healing Brush, I want to be on that layer. And I know that that's what I'm using on that layer. So once I'm clicked on that layer, now I'm going to come over here to my tool bar. And there's a bunch of different tools on here. The ones we want to use are about 1/3 of the way down. And if we right click, you'll see that we have at the top the Spot Healing Brush and the Healing Brush. We're going to be using both of those today. Right now I just want the Spot Healing Brush, and it's kind of a miracle worker. How do I make the picture bigger or smaller? Control plus, Control minus. So I'm going to make it bigger, and then if I hold the space bar down, it turns into a hand so I can move it around. It allows me to move the picture to where I want. But with the Spot Healing Brush, you notice that it turned into, oops, I don't know why it's moving. It turned into a brush. And how do I change my brush sizes? Right bracket or left bracket to make it bigger or smaller. The other way I can do it is in our little brush palette over here. I can change the size, but if I do it over here, I have to keep checking the size, moving the size and coming back in this way. But if I use the bracket keys, left bracket makes it smaller, right makes it bigger. So now I come over and I can click on anything. With the Spot Healing Brush, all it does is it tries to figure out what is like the alien in where you click. So it's going to say, wait, the alien is this little red blemish, and it's going to try to make all this area around it cover up that spot and fit it. So it does it really well. It works really well when you have an area where there's empty or a solid color or an area around the picture that it can grab information from. And that's what it's going to do here. So I can come in and get rid of these major blemishes really well. You can come and click on all of them, and it's going to try to take the information from the area around it and get rid of it. And you see it's doing a great job on some of these, right? So I'm going to get some of these bigger ones and the ones that are kind of isolated. It works best on isolated spots. But if I come in here and I try to do it, it's taking other areas around, so I'm going to back that up. It didn't work that great. Maybe here it will because there's a little bit of isolated area, but it didn't. You see that it duplicated that. So that doesn't work well. We're going to show you a different tool for that part. So you just want to find areas that it really looks like it's fixing. This is also good for fixing, like if you have a spot on your sensor and your sky has like a dark area in it. This is another tool that you can use to fix that. So I'm going to come along and I'm going to fix as many of these blemishes as I can. You see it didn't really help here because there's too many around. But we're going to try to get all the ones that we can, and it didn't work on our lip, so we're going to back that up. Each time it doesn't work, you just back it up because we're going to do some other things to fix those. But we're going to try to get rid of as many as we can with the Spot Healing Brush. It's the easiest tool to work with to retouch. And like if you had a couple blemishes on someone's face, it's super easy to get rid of. But in her case, she has like very massive amounts of acne, and it's not going to work so well with that. It'll just duplicate that area around it and make more acne. So I'm just going to come in, I can resize my brush each time and make it smaller or bigger and see where it's working to get rid of some of these big spots. Okay, so we're getting rid of most of the big areas. Or I mean the singular kind of spots. So we can see that we might be able to fix here. Here when it's close to our eyebrow it might not work. Oh, it did on that one, that's good. Sometimes it doesn't because it picks up the eyebrow color and it will make it darker under there. So we're kind of going through and just fixing up these little areas. Okay, getting as many done as I can, and you see it didn't work there at all. So we can't do that area. Maybe I can go individually here. Oh good, I can. So I can get rid of some of those, but you see it duplicated that one here and it didn't help. So you've just got to figure out where it's going to work and where it doesn't. So we're going to get as much as we can done with this tool. I'm going to fix some of these. It doesn't work on the lip. I tried that once before. You'd think I'd remember that. Okay, so we're just going to come in, get these little spots, and try to get rid of as much as we can. Now, if you want to see what a difference we're making in this, we can turn that layer on and off. So we made a huge difference already, right? You can see what a difference it makes when we turn that layer on and off, the visibility of that layer. So now we're going to come in and fix some of these larger areas. So we're going to add another layer. On this same layer, I'm going to either do Control-J to duplicate the layer, or I can right-click and go Duplicate Layer. And now I'm going to use just the healing brush itself. Not a copy, just the healing brush. Not a spot healing brush. This is just the healing brush. It's a different tool. I'm going to say OK. So now that layer says healing brush. So I'm going to come over to here and I'm going to grab the healing brush. It's underneath the spot healing brush. In order to work that one, what you're going to do is it works kind of like the clone stamp. Only what it does is it takes information from one area and says, oh, you want it to kind of match this area. It doesn't stamp over it like the clone stamp does. It takes the information from the area and says, oh, you want it to look kind of like this area. So it's really good for eliminating large parts of acne. But you need to identify a target just like you do with the clone stamp. So you hold the Alt key down to grab the area, left mouse click, and then you can come over and paint over that. And you'll see that it's going to try to fix it to look good for that area. And it kind of matches it. Okay? And you can come in and do it a few times, and we're going to try to get rid of those big spots. And you see that black area didn't work, so we're going to back out of that a little bit. And maybe make it smaller when we get up there. Make the brush smaller. Use a little smaller target area. And we keep using the Alt key to grab where we're getting the information from. So, and we're going to smooth it out even more later in a minute. So right now, let's do this side of the face. So we're going to hold the Alt key down to get our target area, and we can just kind of brush over. Remember, you have to be patient. You cannot do this in large amounts or it doesn't work. So we're just getting some information here to kind of go over that and paint that in. This is called the healing brush. So it's trying to blend the tones and the colors in to kind of match what it sees behind it. And Photoshop is very good at doing this. Very accurate. So we're going to kind of come in and fix up some of these spots. And when you see something bad, back out of it. It means it didn't work. You don't leave it. So we're trying to get this all fixed. And we're coming over here, and this is a difficult area. You see how that's kind of darker here? So we need to get the information from this area to kind of go over that and get rid of some of those blemishes in there. Okay, and some of it worked and some of it didn't because it's kind of difficult in here. Okay, so it's a painstaking process, but it's also very effective. So I'm going to come in and maybe come over here a little, get some of this fixed. Nope, that didn't work. We got some of the eyebrow in. So you can tell right away when it doesn't work. And get some of this fixed up a bit. Okay, so we come in now and let's get her chin a little bit fixed up too. I don't know why it's so difficult to move. Come on, baby. Thank you. So we're fixed. Whoops. Don't want that. You know why? Because I had the brush down and it didn't want to handle any of that. So we're going to go back a few steps here. That doesn't look so good, does it? So let's go back here. Okay, there. And then let's fix the chin. So we're going to start here. come over, grab some area to kind of get rid of some of that. And that doesn't look very good. It made it blotchy kind of, right? We're going to fix the blotch too. We're going to actually fix all that in a minute. All right, so we made everything a little bit better. So if we come back and we click that off, we can see that we did a lot of adjustments on that, yes? Same here, we come in, so there's a huge difference with each time that we've adjusted. But now we want to kind of smooth the face out a bit. So we're going to add another duplicate layer, and this time we're going to use the clone stamp. And you should kind of use them in this order. You don't have to, but it's kind of going to work the best for you, because the clone stamp takes an exact copy of one area and moves it to another area. So we have to have some smooth skin to move over the area, otherwise it won't work. So we're going to go to the clone stamp. You know where that is. You've used it before. And we're going to take some information from here and we're going to move it over this area where it's blotchy still. We never want our opacity at 100%, because if we do that, we're coming over and we're going to fill it in. Whenever you're retouching, almost always I keep my opacity around 10% for all retouching stuff. So I'm going to take this, again, the Alt key takes the target information, comes over, and I can kind of brush over this area to smooth it out. Okay? So what I'm doing right now is I'm just smoothing out skin tone by taking where it's unblemished and nice, and I'm using it to smooth out the rest of the skin tone. I have to keep changing my target because skin color changes. So you have to keep moving it around until it changes a bit. So we're going to make it all much more even here. And that didn't work, obviously, so we're going to back out of that. Whenever you see something not work, you want to make sure that you override it. Back out of it. Fix it. All right, so now we've come in and we have made her skin less blotchy. And we can see that by coming in and turning that off. Do you see how we smooth that out quite a bit? The last thing we do, we're going to duplicate this layer again, is use what we call the brush tool, and we're going to add color to it. Okay, so I'm going to say okay for that. Now what that means is you're going to use two tools for this. You're going to use the eyedropper, also known as the color picker, and you're going to use the brush. Okay? The brush and the eyedropper, they're right here. The brush tool will brush any color that you pick in the picture. So if I have my default set here, which is black, and I come in and I have the brush tool, it's going to put, my opacity is very low. Let's put it at 100% and I'll show you. It's going to make it black. But I don't want to. I want the color to be the color of her skin. So I'm going to take the eyedropper tool and it picks any color you want and turns the foreground down here to the right color. So right now it turned the foreground to this flesh color, this pinky flesh color, right? So now when I go to paint with my brush, it's going to be that color. If it's at 100%, you can see that I can come in and I can, you know, totally make this look fake. And you see lots of retouching done this way, so that you don't see any skin tone. We don't want that, right? That would look bad. But what we want, again, is about 10% on our opacity. And we want to come in and we want to lightly smooth over the colors. Now, what you want to do is toggle between the eyedropper tool to pick the color and the brush, because you notice the skin here is a different color than the skin here. The skin here is a different color than here. The skin here is a different color. So you have to keep changing that color on the eyedropper tool. So I'm going to pick the eyedropper tool here. And you can toggle between the two by holding the Alt key. So if you hit the Alt key, it turns into the eyedropper tool. So I'm going to grab that color and I let go of the Alt key, and now I can paint it that color. And if I hold the Alt key down and I get this one, you see that I'm painting it lighter. Okay, and I come in and I'm just lightly going over this to smooth out all of the skin tones. But if I hold the Alt key down, it turns into the color picker or the eyedropper, and I can come in and I can just smoothly go over. But remember, skin tone changes from spot to spot. And each time I want to make sure that I have the right color chosen. So I want to come down and I'm not, you notice that I still have the skin tone showing through. The regular one, I don't want to make it perfect. I want to just smooth it out. So I'm going to come over here and smooth this out. Now you notice around her nose it's very bright red or pink from it being inflamed. So I'm going to take the color around here and kind of paint over that. And over here to paint over that to make that lessen so it doesn't look so inflamed next to her. Now the other thing I want you to know about is if I come in and I accidentally or I do something that I don't want so much done from, I can come over here to this Edit Fade tool and it will fade your last stroke, whatever your adjustment is. It's on anything you do in Photoshop. You can go to Edit Fade and it will fade only your last thing that you did. So right now it'll show you that my opacity here, you can see this come up and you see how this is all solid. I can fade that so that her skin tone shows through and we see a little bit of shadowing here so her nose looks normal. It only does it on the last tool I've selected and you see that looks really fake, so I want to come in and fade that. And this is if it's off, as if I did nothing. So I can come in and put it anywhere I want in here. It's a really effective tool. Not a lot of people know about it in Photoshop, but it will fade your last adjustment, whatever your last adjustment is. So again, I'm going to toggle between the color, take out some of this redness here, and even out her skin tones as much as possible. Again, I have to keep changing the color because her skin is a different color here than here, etc. Okay, so now if I come in and I show you that undone, you see that how I evened out her skin tone much better, right? Much more equal, but you still see in here skin tone. You still see detail, you still see pores. We still want to be able to see that there's skin under there. We don't want to take it away so much that we don't see that. Okay? Does that make sense?